the Mommies and Mary Jane sesh, where we're going to be talking about how to talk with your children about cannabis. I'm Jocelyn. I'm the executive director of Mommies and Mary Jane. I'm going to let the other ladies kind of give a short little intro so that we can get some of your questions and also see what you thought about Miss Kindness in her presentation earlier. It was amazing. I felt like I was in like a senior level, like, I don't know, top, I don't know, some type of crazy science class. It was amazing, amazing, amazing. So Vanessa, you want to talk?
You want me to talk? Okay, so I'm also on the board of directors for Mommies to Mary Jane. My son is actually 2 years old today. I'm the owner of Nessie Media and the founder of We'd Love to Talk. And is that it? What else did you want us to say? That's good. And I'm in Tulsa, Oklahoma. And that's it. Yeah, Abby, go ahead.
Hi, sorry if you saw me making weird faces. It's because my husband just comes right on in. Let's chat. No. Whatever. Anyway, hi. I'm Abby Sklar, and I am also on the Mommies and Mary Jane board. Amazing women. I'm so excited to be here. I also have almost 2 years old son in 1 month. And I'm the co-founder of the Artsy Leaf.
Nice to see you, Abby. Nice to see you guys. I'm Lori Lord. I am the owner and founder of Natural High Company, and I am the executive director of Fully Integrated, which is an organization focused on helping people of color and women and underrepresented communities get into the business of cannabis. Mm-hmm. And most importantly, here I am a board member of Mommies and Mary Jane. I love these ladies. I am the mother of a 3.5-year-old son that is seeming to go in through something emotional. He was just crying a minute. I'm like, why are you crying? He's like, oh, for nothing. Okay, well, I'm gonna let you have your moment. And and currently just under 5 months pregnant. So really experiencing kind of the mommy and consumption and trying to like balance that thing. So I'm super excited to be here amongst a lot of other moms. I saw somebody said that I'm hard to hear. We were just saying that a while ago. So anyways, that's it. Hopefully you can hear me better now.
Hey, does that bring it to me? I guess everybody did. I was late hopping on. Hey, everybody, all these women I get to see once a week sometimes, and all you women out there that are joining us. And thanks so much to Tokeativity for giving us this platform to network and learn and enjoy other Canna Mama energy and everything like that. My name's Leah Mauer. I'm one of the owners of the weedblog.com. I am a cannabis activist and kind of won't go into that right now, but have been working alongside Mommies and Mary Jane here for, I don't know, I guess I met Jocelyn last June. So coming up on like a year-ish, and just super grateful to be a part of this group and looking forward to the discussion.
I'm so excited to be here. I'm grateful. Exactly what you said, Leah, just to have the space to talk as moms, and more importantly, moms that consume cannabis, because that topic is not something that it's taboo. Let's just face it. So I would like to talk a little bit about what Miss Kindness was discussing. And I was like, my daughter's 2, so a lot of us have 2-year-olds or toddlers, and she sees me, but it just kind of convicted me that maybe I shouldn't make it so, I don't know, like mommy's doing something bad. You know what I mean? Even when I tell her it's mommy's time, I don't want her to get in the mindset of me lying. And that was the part that convicted me. He was like, if you're hiding, you're lying. I don't hide because I tell her it's mommy's time, right? And sometimes she can see me because I go outside. I don't consume inside when she's here. But that was a conviction for me. And I just wanted to see how you guys felt and like how you want to approach talking with your children, or how you already approach talking with your children. And in the chat, you guys can request to come up and we can pull you up here on the panel. And if you don't feel comfortable with video, you can just write down in the little chat area. And you guys can chime in if you want.
Yeah, I was gonna say for me, you know, a lot of us, like you said, are familiar with the young ones right now, you know, almost 2, 3, which is an incredibly busy time. And I guess it's always busy. I think I have this like naive idea that it's always gonna slow down, but they don't. They just get faster and busier, huh? Leah, let me know. um,
Never
so
slows
a lot
down.
of
Never.
right, I'm like,
Never.
no, like I'm gonna get to rest today. Yeah, right. Um, and so a lot of that, being honest, is setting boundaries consistently. It's constant, like that's not an option, that's not an option. And I was speaking, I don't know, it may have been Abby, but realistically, for me and my household, you know, my husband's a consumer as well. Um, it's gonna, and we're in the industry, so there's products being rotated around. You know, he's starting to climb things anyway, and even, you know, not everything is always locked up. That's reality. um, and Tegan is exploring everything, you know, and he knows that he cannot play with certain things. So if he finds it, or you know, he plays with it, he does bring it to us. But that took at like a year and a half, a lot of like, this is not an option, you need to give that to mommy and daddy. And I'm talking about like lighters or the little containers like this. He loves this because he loves doing lids. But if he gets to interact with this, he does get to smell terpenes, but that's it. He loves smelling plants anyway, and so that's how he thinks of it. It's just a flower. We don't touch flowers because we happen to hike a lot in our family, so he's been on outside in the trail, and that's something I want to teach him, is like, how do we respect the earth, plants, etc. So it kind of just gets thrown into with all of that. But I just heard a really funny story from a mom who decided to be open about this conversation with her kid. And this is what the time of their DARE program. Some of you may be familiar with that. And so I think for our older kids, it's also, how do we be honest? But in this example, this kid went up to the DARE police officer and told the police officer that his mom does drugs because she's a cannabis consumer. And so there are those situations where we have to be honest, but we have to understand, you know, how our children are viewing it at their level. And I think, you know, that's unique for each of us, each of our children and each of our kids. But yeah, that's all I wanted to share. It's just a very busy time and it's not realistic up. And for my 2-year-old, it's just stop, and it's not an option. Lots of redirecting. I'm so tired. Is anyone else? But Leah, you have older kids. You know, tell me, you know, about these teenage years. I think when a lot of moms typically do ask for guidance, their children are, you know, 9 and up. So I'd like to hear from, please, yes,
She's
speak.
waving her hands. Yeah,
Go.
I'll hop in real quick, and then I want to hear what you have to say. Yeah, the only thing that I would add to what Vanessa was saying, because those instances of like the kids just being an honest kid and they go tell the teacher or the DARE officer or, you know, whatever, and they don't mean any harm by it or anything like that, you know, of course not. And so like what I tell people when we talk about this typically is like, when you're talking to your kids about cannabis, like one of the first things you need to do is educate them about the laws where you live. Like that is the most important thing they have to know. And then if you're living in a prohibition state or a state that has like, you know, super limited, like, you know, medical access or something like that, you explain that to them while also kind of simultaneously, and this is obviously once the child is like cognitively developed enough to like have these kinds of conversations. But like once sorry, my 16-year-old's making a pizza. It's loud over here. But you know, to educate them about the laws in your state and the laws at the federal level while simultaneously educating them about how the the research and the science about the cannabis plant does not align with these laws. And so like letting them know, like, this is what, because, if, they won't understand maybe what CNN means or like, what published press sources mean. But just by saying like, a really, really important doctor like did this study and look what they say about this plant. And, there's people, in our state or in our, at the federal level is what I teach my kids, because I live in Oregon where we have a mature market, but teach them that, it's different. It's different where they live and where it is on the national level. Like it, yeah. So I think it's a balance, right? Do you have a question? I want to hear what you have to say. What's your name? How do you say your name?
Well, hi. You can call me Yossi, but my name is in Spanish. It's pronounced Yosiris, but it's
nice. Thank you for
Yossi.
joining us, Yossi. How old are your children or child?
Well, I have two boys. I'm a single mom, so I live with just them. They are 10 and 8. And I just have to say that this lockdown couldn't happen at a more better time, so to speak, because I just moved to Pittsburgh with no family here. And in January, and then lockdown happened. So I've been this whole year until past week with my kids and at home. And this has been a PSYOPs operation because I am at home with my own separate version of my Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. And it's exhausting. It's been it's been really difficult. And you, as Leah mentioned, there's this thing with what can be said and how you can say it and how it might be understood, and you have to be so careful with words because of what might be understood, and it's all so complicated that this lockdown, even if at my mental sanity and at very much at my very own personal expense, has given me the opportunity to provide a space to be honest with them and to, like, for example, very early in the first months of the pandemic, well, I left my bong misplaced, and it's a huge Rick and Morty bong. And as you can see, I'm in my room, and they know my room is my space. It's my safe haven. I have my bunker in my basement, but my room is my safe haven. So they don't come in without knocking. They as of right now, they know I am in a space with other moms that I'm having. So it has given me an opportunity to, I don't know how to put it into words, but to lower myself to their level, for them to understand me, and vice versa. So as I was saying, my kid comes in and he says something, and he goes like, "Oh, cool, Rick and Morty." And I was like, "Oh, thanks. What's that?" And I went like, "Oh, that's mine. Just leave it there. Thank you, honey." "Oh, okay." And he just left. The fact that I didn't, and I'm not going to brag, but my kids are, I'm a lawyer, and my kids have grown up with me in law school. I mean, I started law school when my youngest kid was 7 months old. So all they've heard during all their lives is me talking about legal issues with my colleagues. So this is why this COVID lockdown has been a PSYOPs operation, because their arguments are my arguments. So when that happened, and I just kept it so, this was like this, sorry for the words, like this holy fuck moment. And I was like, oh yeah, thank you. Oh, but what's that? Oh, that's just mine. Just leave it there. Thank you, honey. And I just kept doing what I was doing. I paid no importance, and he just kept going. I admit I felt this cold thing in my body. I was scared. I was like, oh my God, I was so careless. But at the same time, I noticed that the fact that I didn't overreact had an effect as well. So I kept being cautious, but the same, I figured as an analogy, I'm going to think like a lawyer on this one. The same way I've taught them not to go and anywhere near, I don't know, a Tylenol bottle. Well, I can show them that they do not have to go anywhere near this. And that's all they need to know. You don't have to go, this is mine. You don't need to know what it is. It's just mine. And it has worked because I noticed that as long as you keep it simple, you don't give enough, I don't give them enough space for them to fire back. So I keep control of the narrative. And it's easier at the end of the day for me to say, I'm mom. I have the last word. And I figured I had to do it that way because I'm always at a disadvantage. I'm one. There's two of them, 10 and 8, and there's one of me, 34. They have they don't have the issues I have from my past. So it's like I said, Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. And I don't know how I would have done it if it weren't because I found cannabis and actually said, you know what, fuck it, it works for me. And at the end of the day, that's who it has to work for, because everyone else goes to sleep, everyone else minds their own business, and at the end of the day, all I have is all I have is me. So it has to work for me, not the rest. So that's how I ended up here. I found through Women Grow, I found Tokeativity, and then I saw they were live this yesterday or the day before yesterday, and here I am. So this I literally just found all of this.
Activity is incredible in terms of finding like network and support and being able to dialogue in an online space. Obviously, you know women that are actively doing that in your area. Like, so I'm glad that you stumbled upon the platform because it's a wonderful networking and education tool for sure.
And a safe, it's most of all, I found a safe space without being judged, and because, like I said, in someplace else, most people can accept the idea that you can use marijuana and actually be a good mom or be a good professional. You can be both. You can be all of those things and use marijuana. One thing doesn't necessarily inflict the other, but it could vice versa. But like I said, if I made my peace with it, that it has to work for me, and it does. So here I am.
Well, welcome, welcome, welcome. So glad to have you, Mama.
Thank you.
That Mommies and Mary Jane, for sure has been like a safe kind of space for, I think, all of us, really, and even to just have these conversations, to be able to like figure it out. Like, how do we have these conversations with our kids? Like, what does that look like? Like I said, I mean, I have a 3-year-old, so he's not quite, old enough, but, he sees things out in the open sometimes, and he's not asking a ton of questions right now. But I feel like I'm prepared to have those conversations. I think that, I think about cannabis as a plant, similarly to, how I was taught about alcohol. It's like, when you get old enough, you can try it. Like but the bottom line is that we have to learn to, teach our children that, you have to consume responsibly. You have to be a certain age before you should be, trying these things. That's why, you can't buy cigarettes until you're 18, and you can't buy alcohol until you're 21. Those things are in place for a reason. And so I don't see that cannabis is really much different in that space as far as trying to teach your kids about things. But I know with alcohol, my mom let me try alcohol early on because she was like, I would prefer for you to try it with me than to go out in the streets and then feel peer pressure about, having to drink and get drunk and end up in a really bad situation. And so, I mean, you have to know your kids, I think more so than anything. And know, teach your children. But like you said, Yossi, like you've taught your children certain things. I know Leah has taught her kids certain things. So like they're older now, so they are cognizant of what's happening and can make, the right decisions for themselves because their parents have been honest with them. And I think you have a less likely opportunity for them to be abusive of the plant or any other types of drugs if you're just honest with your kids. And that goes back to what you were talking about, Jocelyn and Vanessa, just kind of having that honesty with your kids. So I think that those were like some really great points. But I see we have Kelly joining us.
Thank you for having me up here. What an amazing panel and topic. One of my favorites. I'm just here to answer questions, listen, share knowledge, just be here. Happy Mother's Day, everyone.
Kelly, tell us a little bit about you and what you do and how many kids you have.
Okay, so I have 4 kids. I have an 11-year-old, a 5-year-old, a 3-year-old, and a 1-year-old. And so I am like in the thick of it. So we are starting to go into teenage years and puberty and, the I know everything stage all the way down to my little 1-year-old who climbs into everything and gets into everything. So, just real quick, my name is Kelly Bruce. I'm the founder and co-creator of Canna Mommy. We're a cultivation company in California. We grow craft cannabis for the female market. And then I also run a nonprofit that really helps support families navigate the journey of using cannabis in pregnancy, labor, and postpartum. So that's what I do. And so, I'm like in it so hard. So, my kids, prior to 2017, we had a 215 farm and my kids, were up. So they have had their hands in the dirt. They've helped water plants. They've helped leaf plants. My oldest daughter has helped me make extractions through crock potting and helped me, make CBD bath bombs, full spectrum bath bombs. They have, utilized the plant at a variety of levels. So whether they've soaked in a THC bath or CBD full spectrum bath, okay, all the way down to I infuse and make my own infused coconut oil, and I use it for teething, and I used it on my nipples when they were cracking and from breastfeeding. So, we don't hide anything. We talk to our kids about it. We go a step further. We talk about, why are some people in jail over it? Why is it not okay? And we are trying really hard to create what I call is disruptors out there. So when their peer groups are having these conversations and saying the same push down rhetoric, that they can stop and say well, no, that's not what I think. And that's not what we know. And here's what we know. And really push them forward to have that conversation, but with real information and personal experience. So I'm Kelly Bruce and I'm here.
being here. Yossi, I was going to tell you, I don't know if you saw Miss Kindness talk, but she has a book published that's meant for parents. Did you see her? Okay, you're nodding your head. So
I already sent her an email and she
okay, yeah. Well,
replied.
you got to try. Her book is really good. There's a few out there, but hers is really, really good in terms of like, yeah, having, sometimes it just helps to have a book, you know, to have the conversation, you know.
Yes,
And hers is really good. So I would definitely, yeah.
Yeah,
plug
books.
her. Yeah.
Books. I also spoke to this other girl. And also I emailed. Hey, it was about schedules. So I'm loving this. Like really.
I mean, for me personally, it's just the age appropriate, right? So like with the 1-year-old and the 3-year-old, like in regards to like sex, right? You're not like talking to them as you would like the 11-year-old who's like about to have her period and like, is starting to look at boys, right? The conversation is different and you do need to meet them, but I do fully agree and support the concept that we need to be honest with them and explain to them, it is a plant and it is medicine. And just like anything, you have to be mindful and you have to be aware. And Leah always talks about a great topic too, having the older kids about the legality of it, like even though it's mom's medicine or whatever, and it is safe, right? You can't take it to school. Right? You can't have it when you're 16 and 17 in the car driving around. Like we do need to also, until the legalities change, explain to them that this is a point where people can really like fuck with you kind of, and not to use that word, but you know what I mean? Like we have to explain to them too, the social, racial issues out there and how can they really move that conversation forward within their peer group. And it's a lot of pressure to put on like our 11-year-olds, right? But they want to talk about it too. I mean, yes, Miss Kindness is here. I'm sure she's got.
You know what? I was just sitting back listening. I did not want to say anything, but Kelly, you got my fire going because I, depending on the talk I'm doing, like sometimes it's like, here's how to talk to your children at this stage. But on the real, let me tell you about my son. He will tell his teacher, like, actually, cannabis is not a drug because drugs don't produce seeds. So when I talk about like telling them all of the truth, he knows he's a Black man in America, right? At 11 years old, he knows
That's
that.
my kid.
Yeah, you cannot teach about cannabis. You cannot inform them about this plant without also understanding that you have to teach them that you're about to enter a system and they're going to tell you all of these things. And so at home, as we connect with the plant, that should be something that we're cultivating within ourselves. And Kelly, you just got me back here like, yeah. I had to come on screen to just give you your flowers and say, keep talking.
Oh, you're the best. No, what I was going to hop in and say after what Kelly was saying is like, we got a lot of Black moms on here and nobody can deny the fact that like, basically the war on drugs is just the racist criminalization of cannabis and other substances for decades. Right. And like all y'all, I mean, like so raising my kids to know what racial profiling is and stuff like that, so that they can be allies to other kids as they're growing up, especially my teenagers and stuff like that's really important. Like they have been overeducated about the social equity issue and this decades of the war on drugs issue and how certain groups have just been targeted for so long. Like it's just so important that like that stuff is brought up, like and I know that you said this too before, Miss Kindness, but like we're both speaking in privileged places in terms of like what the legality of the plant is where we live, and a lot of people don't have that privilege. So like that's amazing that we're even able to have this dialogue outside of situations like this one where it is a very safe, like sort of private space for us to be able to dialogue with people like Yossi,
Right.
Totally.
And I really represent a different, if I can, Leah, to speak to that just real quickly, like I represent a different segment of even, the Black community. I've interfaced with social services, but I have a father in law enforcement. I have attorneys in my family. So as we speak about privilege, it doesn't just look white or Black, it looks multidimensional and our ability to access the community that serves us. And so when I had that call, like, oh, you tested positive, let's talk about abuse in the home, we could potentially take your children from you. I was fortunate in that I was like, who can support me? What do I need to do? And there's so many women around the world who don't have that same level of access. And I just think it's really important that we give a moment to that understanding. And that's why these types of small groups are so important, because the knowledge we gain here is what we take back to the communities we serve. So yeah, just thank you. And yes.
Oh my God, thank you. We love you. Thanks for being here. Yossi, and anybody else that's having similar questions or hers, I know one of the other sessions today was hosted by Katie Ibsen, who's the publisher for Sweet Jane Magazine, which is a publication that produces cannabis-specific content for women and especially mothers. And I actually wrote an article, and it kind of goes through, like, if your child's this age, think about these things. If your child's this age, think about these things. And I agree with Ms. Kindness that that's not always what it's about, but it's something to consider, especially if you're starting kind of at ground zero of, like, how am I even going to do this? Or, what do I need to arm myself with before I, like, go into this conversation and stuff like that. So I just wanted to drop that link there for y'all.
Thank you. I think I watched it because I've been nonstop, like.
It's an article. It's just a link to an article that's published. So I
want to ask this question. This is going to be a bold question that I'm going to ask. I'm just going to go out there. I want to hear from the moms on this panel. How can, like, we raise our kids? Like, what can we do to help move this conversation in a different direction and to raise the next generation so that we're having these conversations that they look a little different? Like, what can we do as white moms to help you guys?
Oh, I have.
It's interesting. When you say you guys, you mean women of color?
Yes. Sorry, I need to work on my.
I would just wanted to say that, Kelly. I'm sorry. Go ahead and answer. I was just going to say, discuss the intersection. The intersection. That is what needs to be discussed.
100%. I think what Leah talked about is in raising your kids to be good allies, first understanding what that means, and that's not what this conversation is about. So I don't want to go down that rabbit hole, but, raising your children to know right from wrong and to know, hey, listen, that's not right. And to not only say that that's not right, but stand up and use their voices to, say that that's not right and, intercede. And Ms. Kindness is right. I mean, it's really about the intersection of all of these things and what they mean for us. Jocelyn, I know you were going to say something a minute ago.
I was just going to say thank you, Leah, because she is always leading the charge when it comes to advocating. That's why you're on this advisory board with us. Truly appreciate you, because I think just being in these rooms and these situations, to take that moment that took you 10 seconds to be like, here's an opportunity for me to step up and speak on. Sorry, behalf of all the moms of color. I mean, it's the world. I'm raising a Black, son, and it's incredibly difficult. So thank you.
Yeah.
Leah, you're coming to the Bridges room after this, right? We have more dialogue to.
Yeah, I'm planning on it. And I know you've been doing the Bridges with Tokeativity for a while now, and I absolutely commend you on that. I don't know how many people have seen Miss Kindness interface in that way. It's the work that she's been doing with Tokeativity is incredible in terms of, like, just the bridges and the conversation. So, Vanessa Coke, I want to reach through the screen and give you a big fat hug. I love you. Thank you for that. That was so sweet. It means a lot. That really means a lot. Thank you.
What I want to say is, kids, in my perspective, now I'm no, subject matter expert on children. I have a 2-year-old, so I'm technically pretty new at this thing and learning. But kids are very pure. And I feel like, their hearts are, when they're untainted. So they're pure until they become tainted with our biases and our fears. Like me, I'm terrified of bugs. So, like, I've noticed that I'm raising my daughter and she's like petrified of them. And I feel bad. But they learn from us. And I feel like, when my kid sees other kids that are like another color or, not even necessarily white, different, I don't think she really notices that they're different yet. I'm sure she can tell, but like it's not that. So I feel like when it comes to raising your children, I just feel like as long as you just let them understand, like, we have privilege. That's a real thing. And I'm glad Miss Kindness mentioned having privilege, even being a person of color, because I dealt with that. I didn't know if I was like being fake as fuck or what. But when I entered the cannabis space, Leah, you were like one of the first people that I spoke with about it. And I was raised very diverse. I'm from Northern Virginia. It's a melting pot of people because it's very close to DC. And I didn't even realize that I was being raised in such a racist place until I went off to college. And like, that's when I first started experiencing it. But at first, like, I thought it was normal as far as like how the cops were, you know, and then when I got in cannabis and I noticed that like people that live in inner city and they deal with like real life, like, you know, just being exploited by the system straight up, and having to experience it without any systematic like overlay, because that's what I had where I was from. There was a systematic overlay. That's what I say, where I didn't realize there was anything wrong because that's just the way that it was. And then I met Chelsea with Marijuana Justice, which is an organization out here in Virginia. And she was like, you can't do cannabis without politics. Like, there's no way that you can be in this space and not know what's going on, you know, where you are. So I'm one of those people that I was just like, I don't, you know, they're all fucking liars.